Rain had always been Maya Collins's lullaby. Ever since childhood, the sound of thunder made her feel safe, like the sky was roaring so nothing else could. But after moving back to her grandmother's old farmhouse in Pine Hollow, she began to feel that maybe storms didn't just wash things away, they brought things back. The house sat at the edge of endless cornfields, the nearest neighbor miles away. When the wind passed through, it made the stalks whisper long, dry murmurs that sometimes sounded like voices. Maya tried not to listen. She'd come here to start over after the divorce. No more city lights, no more sleepless nights beside someone who'd already left her long before he packed his bags. Just quiet, peace, or so she thought. The first week was fine, until the nights grew louder. It began with tapping, not random rain against glass, rhythmic, deliberate tapping at her bedroom window. Every night, the same time, 3:12 a.m. At first she blamed the trees, the wind, her own imagination. But one night, she got up to check. The branches were still. The wind was silent. And yet, tap, tap, tap. Her flashlight beam cut through the darkness, revealing only her reflection in the fog glass. Pale skin, white eyes, trembling breath. Nothing else. But as she turned to leave, the tapping came again, louder, from the inside of the window. She stumbled back, knocking over a vase. When she looked again, the glass was perfectly still. Dry. That's when the power flickered. The lights dimmed, and the radio downstairs, the one she'd unplugged days ago, began hissing with static. Through the crackle came a voice. Low, distorted, almost human. Maya, don't go outside when it starts. Her throat went dry. Outside, lightning spidered across the horizon, miles away but drawing closer, the first herald of a storm that had been building all day. The farmhouse groaned as thunder rolled across the valley. The lights died completely, plunging her into darkness. And somewhere far off, through the rising wind, she thought she heard it again, faint, patient tapping. Tap, tap, tap. But this time, it came from every window at once. The storm arrived at midnight. It didn't just come, it descended, like a living wall of black clouds swallowing the moon. By the time the first thunder cracked, Maya's whole house seemed to flinch. She lit a few candles in the kitchen, their flames bending under every gust that slipped through the old walls. The power was gone completely now. Outside, the rain came in waves, pounding so hard it sounded like hands slapping the windows. Maya tried to distract herself, reading, making tea, anything. But the noise made it impossible to think. Then the radio hissed again. She froze. It sat on the counter, unplugged. She'd even removed the batteries earlier. A slow, deep static rose and fell, like breathing. Then, under the rumble of thunder, a faint voice pushed through. He's still outside. Maya's blood ran cold. She turned toward the back door. The porch light flickered weakly from its backup generator, flashing on and off. And in that flicker, she saw a shape, a tall, dripping silhouette standing perfectly still. When the lightning came again, it was gone. She gripped the counter, trembling. You're just imagining it. Just the storm. But then came the sound that shattered every calm thought. Footsteps. Slow. Wet. On the wooden porch. 1 step. 2 steps. Stop. The knob on the back door turned, just once, lightly. Then again, harder. Maya ran upstairs, holding her breath. From the landing, she could see the reflection of the door in the glass frame of a picture. Someone was standing on the porch, close enough that she could see the rain bouncing off their shoulders. She crept to the upstairs window and peered out through a slit in the curtains. Lightning flashed, and there it was again. A figure in a hood, face hidden, standing right in front of her house. It looked up at her window. Maya stumbled back. Her heart pounded so hard it hurt. She didn't move, didn't breathe. Another flash, and it was closer. At the edge of the porch now. Then came the knocks. 3 slow knocks. So even, so calm. They almost sounded polite. The thunder followed like an answer. She crept down the stairs, clutching the old kitchen knife she'd grabbed without thinking. The knocking moved to the side window. Then the next. Then the next. Each time, 3 knocks and a pause. When she reached the living room, she saw it. Words drawn in the condensation on the inside of the glass. Let me in. Maya screamed and stumbled back, dropping the knife. She ran to the radio, yanking it from the wall, though it wasn't plugged in, and hurled it across the room. It hit the floor, breaking apart, and from its cracked speaker came a whisper, faint but certain. You shouldn't have opened the window. Her eyes darted to the left. The small kitchen window she'd cracked earlier for air was now wide open, curtains flapping violently in the storm. And beneath the roar of the wind, she heard it again, footsteps, inside the house. Maya froze. The footsteps were inside. Not soft creaks of old wood, but heavy, wet ones. Each step left a faint squelch, as if someone was tracking mud and rain across the floorboards. She backed up the stairs, heart hammering in her throat. Lightning flashed through the windows, bathing the house in white for an instant. In that brief glare, she saw it. A trail of wet footprints, starting from the open kitchen window and leading toward the hallway. Her pulse roared louder than the thunder. She darted into her bedroom and locked the door. Her phone, still no signal. The landline dead. The storm outside raged harder, wind shrieking through cracks like screams. Every flash of lightning lit up the room, revealing her reflection in the dresser mirror, pale, terrified, drenched in sweat. But in the next flash, her reflection didn't move when she did. Maya's breath hitched. She turned her head slowly, and her reflection stared straight back, its eyes slightly darker, its mouth slightly open. Then it smiled. A deep, wrong, too-wide smile. She stumbled backward, knocking over the lamp. The mirror cracked down the middle, slicing her reflection in two. But even through the fractures, the image kept grinning. From behind the door came the knocking again. 3 times. Even. Come. Knock. 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 Then a whisper through the crack. Maya, let me in. You invited me when you looked. The voice was her own. Tears welled up as she backed away, clutching her grandmother's old shotgun from under the bed. Her hands shook violently as the doorknob began to turn, slow and deliberate. She screamed, "Stay away," and fired through the door. The blast deafened her, filling the room with smoke and splinters. When the thunder rolled again, she realized something impossible. The door hadn't been hit. The wood was untouched, but the mirror now had a hole in it, as if she'd shot her reflection. From inside the mirror, her image blinked. The crack spread wider, crawling like veins across the glass. Behind the fractures, something moved. A shape, her shape, but darker, its body made of water, shadow, and lightning. You called me, it said in her voice. You wanted a new life, a clean slate. I can wash everything away. The mirror began to ripple like a puddle, the air growing cold and damp. Her reflection reached through, its hand dripping with rain that sizzled on the floorboards. Maya fired again. The shotgun clicked empty. The creature lunged, its face merging with hers for a split second, and in that moment, she saw everything it had taken. Faces, bodies, every soul who'd ever looked into a storm and seen themselves. She screamed as lightning hit the house, blinding white, and everything went still. When the thunder stopped, silence fell heavy over Pine Hollow. The farmhouse stood motionless in the gray morning, its roof half-collapsed, windows shattered, and air still smelling of ozone and wet wood. The sheriff's deputies found the front door hanging open when they arrived. No footprints in the mud except for one set, Maya's, leading out toward the flooded cornfields, and then nothing, like the storm had swallowed her whole. Inside, everything was soaked. Furniture overturned. Mirror glass scattered like ice across the floor. But one thing made everyone freeze. Maya's reflection was still visible in every shard. Each broken piece showed her face, frozen mid-scream. And though the real air in the house was still, the shards trembled softly, as if stirred by wind only they could feel. The sheriff collected a few pieces in a box, muttering about moisture damage and hallucinations. But his deputy swore that when she leaned close, she heard something faint beneath the ringing silence, a whisper from the glass. You look too long. 2 weeks later, a young couple bought the old farmhouse. They said the place just needed a little work. The first storm of the season hit the night they moved in. The woman, Claire, unpacked the mirrors from their boxes, old ones she found in the attic, and hung one above the fireplace. When lightning flashed, she caught sight of something strange. A woman's face in the reflection. Not hers. Pale, soaked, mouth open as if gasping for air. Then came a faint, steady sound against the window. Tap, tap, tap. Claire turned toward the sound, but saw only darkness beyond the glass. She laughed nervously, calling for her husband. Probably a branch, she said. But the tapping grew sharper. Rhythmic. 3 knocks. When she looked back at the mirror, her reflection was gone. Now, locals say that every thunderstorm in Pine Hollow brings more than lightning. If you listen closely between the thunderclaps, you'll hear her voice whispering through the static of old radios. Don't go outside when it starts. Some say Maya Collins was taken by the storm itself. Others believe she became it. And if you ever find yourself near that lonely farmhouse during a thunderstorm, lock your doors. Because when the rain hits your window exactly 3 times, it means the storm remembers your name.